Howdy, everyone. Welcome back
Hey.
to
Hi-ho.
Bourbon Pursuit. Made it.
We
You all
made
ready
it.
for Christmas?
Another year in the books.
It is. We're almost there. We're almost
Almost.
there. We might have room for like one or two more news stories, but after that, it's over. Can't do any more.
No, definitely no more BCR.
Nope. This is gonna be the last one.
Yeah.
I'm calling it.
Yeah.
Tired of seeing you guys all the time.
It does seem like the month just rolls by. Like, I feel like we just do it like every week now. But I guess it's just how time's flying.
We getting old.
I know.
It happens.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I wanted to grab a bourbon before we started, and I was looking around, and I found this dusty bottle that's been sitting on our. So we have a whole, basically desk. I think there's probably at least 100, 150 bottles on there of just stuff either we haven't got to or whatever. And I was like, you know what? Everybody keeps talking about this damn Elijah Craig C923. I might as well open it up. So
I hear some people say it might be good.
I was like, if Breaking Bourbon's calling it their bourbon of the year, I gotta dive into it. So I just opened it and fuck, it's pretty damn good.
Oh, you haven't had it yet?
No, I literally just took off the plastic. Like I said, it's literally got dust on it. It's just been sitting over there, so we haven't had a chance to get to it.
Creating his own Dusties.
I love it. Fantastic. That's a great
I've seen it there for like a while, and I keep thinking I was going to try, and then I'm like, not today. Just never did.
I don't need
Jordan.
to start
So
off, 133 proof.
Elijah Craig posting today with a screenshot of the Breaking Bourbon news release.
There you go. It was for those who haven't had it yet. So Elijah Craig C923. It was our overall #1 whiskey of the year on BreakingBourbon.com, and it's fantastic. Like, bottom line, Heaven Hill just nailed it with this one. Not only is it affordable, for the most part, it was easy enough to get. I'll put it that way. I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm not going to say it's hard. Easy enough depending on where you live. But boy, is that just a fantastic all around.
It's got some really good color
bourbon
on it.
Yeah. Super tasty.
Almost 14 years. It's pretty,
Super
13 and a
tasty.
half, but yeah.
I'm always amazed at the swings in proofs. It's like,
Yeah.
because they're obviously pretty big batches, when they dump them. And so there's tons of barrels going into these, and it's wild. You can have a 133 versus a 120 or whatever. It's fascinating.
Yeah, to be that high when you're combining barrels, you got some high proofs to keep that average.
Yeah, I would say the interesting thing about it, at least from a like an operations and sales point of view, is that I don't know if you've ever seen like 2 or 3 of these different batches on the shelf together. Like, if one's just not selling, you see different verticals of pretty much every other type of whiskey on the shelf, but you don't see a bunch of Elijah Craig barrel proofs next to each other. So either the demand is outweighing the supply, which is probably right where it should be, or it's
And those
they do a
releases
really
are
good job.
pretty big. They're not small. I
yeah.
know the numbers, but I won't tell them. But they're not small by any means.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I mean, if you like barrel, let's narrow this down. If you like Kentucky barrel proof bourbon, decently aged, right? This one decently aged, then more, right? I mean, what are you're going to go for a Booker's at $100?
This is the high end of aging, right? If I would say,
right?
I mean, most everything
this,
is around the
especially-
7-year age. Sorry,
Yeah,
give me an
you're right. No, especially C923 with it being older. But what are you going to go for? Booker's at $100, or this is assuming you're finding an MSRP? You're paying $70-80. You're like, yeah, I'm going to go for this one
for a 6-year-old bourbon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not anymore after Breaking Bourbon story.
Well, stock up while you can.
Yeah.
I think you just made the next 4 releases of barrel proof just fly off the shelf.
Sorry, guys.
No,
it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Make it all happen.
So it was good.
At least you didn't pick some crazy finish or something. I was
always worried what Breaking is going to pick.
Yeah.
Ambarana finish.
We debated for you, Ryan. We're like, do we just make Ryan's head explode? But we decided not to.
You had to see me.
Here's a good head explosion. Michael just put it in the chat. You probably can't see it because it's on Facebook, but it says, "Would you guys make a pursuit on Bourbon if it was guaranteed to sell 50,000 bottles?"
I can't do it.
That's a good question.
I just couldn't do it.
It's a moral conundrum, isn't it?
Well, let's ask Kenny. Kenny, would you do it?
Absolutely.
Kenny would 100%.
It was like, I have no backbone, guys. Like, I will fold like a house of cards. Like, it's not a problem.
I would step down, but in the back, I would be like, all right, give me the half of that money.
He's now a silent partner. Yeah. All right. So what we'll do, we'll kick it off. The first half of the show, we'll kind of talk about a good topic that a buddy of ours named Todd Ritter sent us, talking about kind of like how I fucking lost it. Where did it go? Okay, there it is. Let me pull this up so I don't lose it. We'll talk about why there's never blowback from brands that are acquired. And then we'll go into a review of our 2023 predictions, which I listened to the last show. And so I have them all out. So we have a lot of good talking points to bring on here, which Eric was on the last one. And so he had some other stuff to talk about. And then everybody's asking, where's Fred? I don't know where Fred's at. Fred actually asked us to postpone, and we said, no, we're not doing it.
He's at jiu-jitsu practice.
He's probably in a chokehold somewhere. And then Blake is in Disney for like the 96th time this year. It must just be like you live in Florida and that's just what you do. Like,
got season passes.
Good Lord. I don't like going to Disney once every 5 years, much less like 5 times a year. I couldn't do it.
That's a lot of Mickey. A lot of Mickey.
That's too much. Too much Mickey.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Adam says, is this going to end a streak? If I have to put my bets on it, he's going to show up at some point.
He will.
Yep.
I can guarantee it.
Yeah. Who knows?
It'll be the worst sound quality, worst video, worst.
Yeah.
But he'll be here.
But he'll be here.
He'll be in a stall and in a urinal or something.
Yeah. And now that like I'm taking over editing for these ones, so now he's going to make my life a pain in the ass when I have to start doing this tomorrow. So, all right, here we go. Hey everybody, welcome back. It's another fantastic episode of Bourbon Pursuit, the official podcast of Bourbon. Kenny and just Ryan here, but we also have some other members of the Bourbon Roundtable here as well. But we're going to have a fun episode. This is always one of those episodes where we look back at a year in review. There's a lot of good things that did happen, maybe some things that surprised us, but we're going to look at our 2023 predictions and figure out, well, what went right, what went wrong, and Ryan, if I had to guess, most of the things we always think of are always wrong anyway.
Yeah, we're always wrong. And, we had an awkward meeting after the last roundtable and cut 2 of the members out. So it's just us 4. So
skeleton crew.
But no, it's crazy that this is already the end of the year where, it's mind blowing. It's like time is just evaporating. I don't know if it's just like being in the whiskey business or something where you're just always thinking 3 months, 6 months, 6 years down the road. And like, I don't know, or just we're all busy. It's just time is evaporating. It's crazy.
I think things are starting to pick up. Maybe that's why we've got 92 irons in the fire. We're trying to do a bunch of marketing. We got new products coming out, new different kinds of things, but that's what's eating up our minds and our time right now. I'm guessing that's what it is.
Every day's a race and we get further behind.
And everybody's sitting there trying to get on Fred Minnick's top 100. That's all everybody thinks about right now.
Yeah, I was surprised at how much pushback there was for not getting on the top 100. It's like 100's a hard list with all the stuff. Like you said, we got 100 bottles that we haven't even had time to review that this year. So there's a ton of good whiskeys out there, and it's hard to make those top 100s.
Which is the reason why I walked in here and I said, I'm gonna pour myself something. And so I grabbed a bottle off our table that we had not even opened this year, but I looked at it and I was like, holy crap. This was Breaking Bourbon's Whiskey of the Year, and we hadn't even tried it yet. So I just popped open Elijah Craig Barrel Proof C923, and I can see why, Jordan, why you picked it this year.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. We just a fantastic bourbon. Great all around whiskey to enjoy, and I don't know, hit the right age, hit the right proof, they just nailed it. Heaven Hill just nailed it with this bourbon.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good. I know Ryan's probably going to come here at solid 8:30 in the morning tomorrow and be like, all right, I got to see what this is all about.
Drop the kids at 7:30. I'll be there 7:35. Tasting C923.
Best way to kick off the day.
That's right.
Yeah, actually. And so, Jordan, go ahead and give a quick intro.
No worries. Jordan from breakingbourbon.com. Thrilled to be here as always. I can't believe we're wrapping up another year, another great 12 months of good roundtables, and thrilled to be talking with you guys again. And a little scared to look back at some of our predictions.
Oh yeah, I
gosh,
got them all down. And Brian's here with us as well.
Yeah, I'm really damn happy to have made the cut. Blake might come to an end, but Jordan and I made it. Congratulations, Jordan. Brian was sipping corn, bourbon justice, all that kind of stuff. I was racking my brain to remember what I predicted, and it's going to be a surprise for me because I've got a short-term memory loss. So I'm eager to hear what I said and eager to hear how bad we got it.
That's what I love to hear from our attorney.
He's terrible at note-taking. Yeah,
I have no recollection of anything.
I remember the good stuff.
Yeah.
Plead the fifth.
Yeah.
All right. So I see people that are commenting in the chat already. They're putting 2024 predictions in there. So today on this show, we are not doing any 2024 predictions. We're saving that for the first episode in January. So come back in a month. You got some more time to start brainstorming. But before we start looking at a year in review, I want to start looking at another question that was brought up to us. And this is coming from somebody that we've known for, at least I know that Brian and I know. His name's Todd Ritter. He came up with this question, and it was one that kind of really sparked something. And I guess this will be the one that kind of finishes the year as we start thinking philosophically on different ideas and why bourbon drinkers tend to think a certain way. And I looked at it, and he had a really good kind of viewpoint on this, and says, why is it there blowback from brands that get acquired? Because if you look in craft beer, you have sometimes the little guys, they get scarfed up by the bigger companies like InBev and everything like that. And there's always a great deal of blowback. He says he remembers seeing pictures of people that were pouring wicked weed down the drain because they got purchased. So why is bourbon getting a pass? We're starting to see more and more smaller companies. You had Sagamore, you had Penelope, you've had a lot of different acquisitions this year. Wilderness Trail. I mean, we can keep going. Blue Run. And a lot of these are getting picked up by bigger companies. However, there's no blowback. And so we'll kind of take it from there and trying to figure out, well, what's the mindset of a bourbon consumer? Why would they not look at it and think like, oh, well, now they're just going to get all corporate. Like they're going to go too big. Let's kind of get some of your initial takes into it, and we'll dive in from there.
All right, that's a great thought. That's just a great viewpoint. Go for it, Brian.
Oh, well, I was thinking about this.
Brian, yeah.
I was thinking about this, and I think they're two different consumers. The craft beer, I would have to say, and I could be totally wrong. If I had to say, a craft beer enthusiast or drinker is different from a whiskey enthusiast, and what I mean by that is, and I don't mean this politically, like to me, like a craft beer, like crazy geek person is probably tends to lean more on the kind of like liberal, artsy, passionate side, whereas probably a whiskey consumer tends to be more conservative, kind of traditional, loves big legacy brands history side. And so like when a craft beer who's embraced by, these kind of creative types and, looking for the next new thing and this and that, as soon as it gets gobbled up by a corporation, that's like a punch to their soul. That's like they don't that just doesn't align with their values. Where if you look at a whiskey consumer, they tend to like follow the herd and really like to be like more, I guess, they like to feel safe when purchasing. They love history, they love legacy, they love the bigger distilleries because of what they provide, and as far as like aged products, quality, and so I think there's just a different mindset with those different groups of consumers. And I think, if you take Penelope, for instance, right off the bat, they were bought out and, the whiskey, the age statements got higher. They had access to Kentucky stocks, the product immediately got better, right off the bat. And I think that's, as if you're a Penelope fan, that's a good thing, whereas probably a craft beer, they try to probably want to dumb it down and make it more palatable to more mass consumers. And so it kind of loses the soul of it. And so whereas whiskey consumers want it to taste like everything else on the market, I guess. I don't know. That's just kind of how I was looking at it when you brought up this question.
Well, a lot of times that does happen in beer because they want to take a recipe but put it to better efficiency. So they'll put it to other contract breweries or other larger breweries that they have inside their portfolio to then take it to a larger market. And therefore they lose that quality control, or they lose maybe whatever that essence is of the craft beer when they're trying to put it out there versus something that's small, local, and something like that. Maybe that's what you're trying to get at there.
Well, and two, it's like, with distilled spirits, and I preach on this all the time, and this doesn't, the craft distilleries are obviously different and it's a whole different thing, but pretty much when you're distilling a commodity and you're letting it put in the barrel, you have mash bills that are very similar, but you're really depending on a lot of aging, maturation, warehouses, this and that to get that final product. And so if you take, for instance, a smaller craft brand, you're going to be able to refine it better. Whereas craft beer is definitely more like just kind of artful, I guess. It's more artsy than there's just more of a creative process, I guess, with craft beer. And so I think that appeals to, a certain type of consumer that when it gets bought out, it loses that. But I don't know, that's just where my head goes.
It's fantastic question, and it's almost, going to Ryan's point a little bit, it is definitely the mindset of the crowd that is after craft beer and the crowd that's after whiskey, especially non-major distillery whiskey, right? You sell a craft beer, you're a sellout. You sell at your distillery and you're in whiskey, you made the American dream. And it's kind of goes back to that point, right? I think people kind of view craft beer just like Ryan said. They're artisans, they're small. They can envision themselves doing this in their own garage or basement or whatever, right? You build a whiskey distillery, that's like, all right, you did it. You made the American dream. You're selling it for, millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're rooting for you to do it. And it goes a little bit too, there's so many craft distilleries all over America, right? Think of any given city, any given town, there's usually a few breweries. With distilleries, there's usually one, maybe outside of Kentucky, right? You go to a city, maybe there's one or two. So you're not only rooting for your local quote unquote home team, but you might be rooting for your favorite city to go big and sell out and then have other people have access to it. But it really goes down to it's just two different consumers, two different mindsets, two different ways of viewing it. One's viewing it very much as a business and congratulations on your winnings and you've made it. Others are viewing it as an art. I don't really think too many people are looking at whiskey distillers and calling them artists per se, in the sense that they might with like a brewmaster or something like that.
That's a fair point.
I didn't think of that point at all, and it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I was more thinking along the lines of you've got more access. If you're Penelope, you've built in your access to your whiskey, and so you can get more of it, and that's why there's no blowback. But I hadn't even considered this, but I think you guys are right on point about it. I don't know what goes into the mindset of the craft beer folks, but you're absolutely right. It's like a band when you're, alternative or whatever they call it now, and you go mainstream and everybody suddenly hates you. It's the same idea. But you don't see that. I'm trying to think of a single example where there was blowback on a purchased whiskey, and there's really not. But on the other hand, some just kind of disappear, and kind of lose their relevancy once they're bought. And some of that is intentional by the acquiring distillery. They just kind of want to absorb it and consume it and make it one and the same. And that part is sad. That is happening in the whiskey business. And I wish we could keep some of the local differences and what you get from some of these craft brands.
Yeah, I think this is, you all hit on some really good points, and Ryan, you probably really touched on maybe really just the consumer mindset and just the different type of consumer there is when you look at this. But, Penelope, I think, is a real corner case when it comes to this, because that was a brand that was purchased for a particular avenue because that brand was already using their whiskey. Like, that is not a very common type of acquisition. Blue Run was purchased to kind of fit a niche into a company that is just now starting to get into whiskey. The Campari Wilderness Trail, that's a whole different other animal there to try to figure out how that works. But at the end of the day, I think the only people that maybe even might have some sort of blowback when it comes to this, and what I've seen is, of course, distributors, because when that does happen and a company gets purchased, so let's take Wilderness Trail for a perfect example. Wilderness Trail, they already had a bunch of distributors, nationwide distributor network. When Campari buys them, what does Campari do? They cut off all of their current distributors and make them consolidate into Campari's distributor network, right? So in regards of that layer, distributors, they get really kind of screwed. And that's why you see a lot of distributors now are requiring contracts, multi-year contracts. And if you want to get out of it, you've got to pay a bunch of money to get out of it as well. The other side of things is the retailers. Retailers end up getting screwed too, because if you are with a particular distributor or anything like that, well, you've already purchased X amount of whatever, and now it comes time for allocation season, and all of a sudden you don't get the barrels that you were requested. You don't get anything else that you might have been lined up for. So I think that we miss that from a consumer standpoint, but there's other tiers or other people that are affected by this, and that's just a business decision. It's not we're not going to drink this brand because it doesn't stand for what we want anymore. But we do see that from like a B2B standpoint too.
Yeah, and I think the fascinating thing is like, and I think it goes back to our topic we talked about 2 or 3 months ago. It's like it's like in no other like market is the connoisseur like that acceptable of the mass market products, and in whiskey that's just the case. And so when when a small craft boutique brand gets bought up, that's what the consumers already love. But like, if Miller Lite buys, I mean, I love Miller Lite, but I would think craft beer drinkers would think Miller Lite's trash. And when their beloved brand gets bought up to them, they're like, oh no, it's going to turn into trash. But whiskey aficionados or enthusiasts really love the big six brands, for a lot of reasons. And that's, so I think they're more comfortable with it, that like it's okay, it's a safe place for this to go. The quality is going to be matched or exceeded. But like as Brian said, there's been several that have been bought, and they've either took that model and tried to make it into something it shouldn't have been. And like I'm thinking of like Kentucky Owl, for instance. It's just got turned into this way overpriced, really expensive thing, which, I mean, Dixon kind of had that, but it wasn't that egregious of pricing, and it was small, really quality batches. And then they bastardize it by making it so many bottles, so many big releases, and push the price limits to $400,000, $600,000 a bottle. And then now that brand's almost come kind of irrelevant, which is sad, because it has such a cool story and cool legacy behind it. But yeah, it's just that a whiskey consumer is so different from any other like passionate enthusiast market. It's different.
Now, on the Wilderness Trail, though, that might be an outlier because, and as Kenny said, it's kind of its own situation. I think a lot of people were probably rooting for Wilderness Trail to make it a big 7, instead of getting acquired. Now, more power to Pat and Shane. I mean, love what this does for them and everybody else who was able to get paid off of this. But God, they were doing some great stuff, and they really, really could have made it a big 7.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, I look at this and it is interesting from a consumer standpoint, and I'm glad we touched on a lot of that. The other thing I also want to look at from the consumer side is just, there's never a blowback. There's never a concern for quality, and I think that's one of the things that I always look at, is because we talked about beer going into larger brew houses and being contracted out. Now, when you go into a larger company, a lot of the stuff is going to get outsourced, whether it's the blending, whether it's the marketing, whether it's distribution. And so that is, we'll try to figure out where it's going to happen. But I mean, you're right. Right now, I think Stoli and Kentucky Owl might be the only kind of relevant case right now that we see of things that just didn't go according to plan, or considering what we've seen other companies that get acquired and sort of what their trajectory looked like as well. But like I said, that's the only kind of thing I can think of at this time.
But there's still hope for a roller coaster. So I don't know. I mean, seems like that's a win for
Pyramids.
consumers.
Pyramids and roller coasters.
Okay,
could
what
be.
more do you need? What more do you need, Kenny?
It could happen. It could happen. All right. Well, let's go ahead and let's change gears now, and let's kind of look back at 2023. So there was a lot of good stuff that came out of this group, and a lot of things. And we've got about, I think, 5 or 6 different subjects to kind of touch on, who's going to get acquired, what sort of like products might be released. But the first one we kind of look at is pricing. So in the last time we did this, I'll kind of look at Blake and Eric were kind of the first ones to kind of talk about pricing, and then Brian followed up as well. So Blake and Eric were kind of on the same page that pricing was still going to go out of control, that bourbon's not going to slow down. Prices are continue to jack up, and there's going to be more 100 bottles on the shelf. And Eric even went further to say that there's even going to be a huge expansion in the ultra premium category, where there's going to be more bourbons that are going to hit that $500 plus category. Whereas on the other side, Brian looked at it and said that he thinks prices are going to stabilize more in 2023. So I don't know. I think this is kind of going both ways here. I think we've definitely seen a softening of the market, which we'll kind of get to here in a little bit too. But in regards of just pricing, there's still people that are pushing the envelope. I mean, Rabbit Hole just came out with Amberana for $1,000. That's a very kind of one-off sort of thing.
Pickle just came out with a $600 18-year or whatever it was, $500, which normally that was like a $75 bottle or something.
Right?
Yeah, they just did all those private picks 3 years ago for $50 for a 15 to 17-year-old whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Eric just said he bought a $175 Knob Creek at Trader Joe's today. So I guess we can see that pricing is still going a little high, but I think that's because there definitely still needs to be something that hits that button for ultra premium. If people are looking for something that is that, dear Lord, how many times we've talked about this for the past 6 years we've had the show and talking to Breaking Bourbon is how many often you get the email that says, I need a $250 bottle to buy my boss. So it has to exist. And I think people just need to continue to build that. And it's going to happen in every single portfolio.
It's you're exactly right, Kenny. So now's the time of year when we start getting all those emails and messages on social media saying, need to buy a gift. What do you recommend for X price point? X price point's high. So yeah, we did. We reviewed the most number of $500 plus or $500 bourbons or more that we've ever touched. Right now, was it a ton in the grand scheme of things? No. Was it more than years past? Yeah. And it's funny. Those get the most blowback by consumers. We get the most amount of emails where people are really pissed off. We get the most amount of messages where people are really pissed off that they can't believe brands are charging $500, right? Why would they do that? And when you think about it, those releases, they're actually really small. So I'm not sure if it's the fact that they're priced what they are. People are upset that they can't get their hands on it, but they're not meant for everyone. And, and we say this often, not all bourbon's for everyone either. It's okay. Am I going to go out personally and go buy a $500 bottle of bourbon? No, because I know there's fantastic bottles out there for way, way less. But for some folks, that's a necessary thing, right? So the market's definitely being tested. I mean, you notice some brands doing it too. Look at Barrel, right? Their gold and gray labels slashed the prices the last few weeks, right? They almost cut in half. Fantastic. They're still very expensive. And a lot of consumers say, oh, that's still too much money, but way less than they used to be. But other brands are pushing the envelope nonstop. And you see $500 being that, all right, this is starting to feel like, the premium category, ultra premium category. And I think we'll continue to see that trend next year. It's not going to be all brands are jumping to it, but I think all brands are realizing we probably need some sort of ultra premium product that's, priced where it is. So when consumers need that, that special bottle because they just need to buy on price like they would typically for scotch or a bottle of wine or something else, it's available to them because they're just leaving money on the table if they don't have it. Right, wrong, or indifferent. Not saying I like it, but it makes a lot of sense why they're doing it.
Yeah, and prices did increase on LTOs this year. Like, we can't deny that. I mean, there were some good comments in the chat. The Willet 8-year black bottle that came out, $300 on the shelf. Wild Turkey Generations, $500. The Four Roses limited edition, I think that was $185. I think Old Forester birthday bourbon was pushing to 175 this year. So you just see just the LTO category starting to grow as well.
Yeah, so I figured I'd lose my prediction to Eric immediately on this, just based on the stupid Eagle Rare, let alone all these other ones that you guys have mentioned.
I forgot about Eagle Rare. Dang.
Yeah, I mean,
Talk
it's
about
like,
that one.
yeah, I know. So I'm just taking body punches left and right. So maybe my saving grace is that the Four Roses single barrel selections, things like Rare Breed, Old Forester 1920, Four Roses small batch select, those kinds of things, Elijah Craig barrel proof, those things have held steady. And if you're in the market for those, maybe we've stabilized, and maybe we're looking for the next, really expensive one, but some really good solid bourbons that arguably are going to be better. Just look at Breaking's conclusion for whiskey of the year. Whiskeys that are going to be better than all of those other ones combined are sort of kind of stabilized, but really I'm reaching, and I give this one to Eric.
Yeah, it's definitely been a weird year because you got, it seems like people are either trading down or they're spending top dollar, and they're kind of like the 75 or anything like in that $100 to $150 getting, or $200 getting crushed right now. I mean, they are not moving whatsoever. But if you're in a position where you're 75 and less, you're in a good spot. If you're ultra premium and you have a good LTO, they seem to be doing okay. But that $100 to $200 mark is like somehow is now the middle, and nobody wants to be in that middle ground, because you can find, as Jordan said, you can find fantastic stuff sub $80, and you find amazing stuff at those higher premiums. But that 100 to 200, you're like, maybe it's just not worth it these days, And I think it's like the consumer. We're coming off those pandemic years where everybody just bought so much stuff, and they're just having to clear what's on their shelves. Stores are having to destock. The distributors are trying to destock. You got consumers trying to destock, at their house. So there's just, and you got interest rates that are higher, economic uncertainty. So I don't know what's going to happen, and we'll talk about it probably in the next one. But pricing, I see, the LTO is probably going up, but I see probably things in the 100 to 200 and less maybe drop down.
I guess we didn't talk, we maybe should have made a 2023 prediction, not 2024, but looking forward to that Pursuit Spirit $500 bottle releasing. So let us know when that happens.
Well, don't you worry. You'll be the first one to get a thimble of a sample.
We'll send you a thimble.
We're gonna send it to you as the in the third batch of the year to make sure that it's not going to be in the very beginning, so you're going to forget about it, but it's going to be closer to the end. But I mean, this was you did see this happen this year. I mean, there's a lot of talk in the chat. A lot of people talked about even Henry McKenna, which was a $35 bottle, now pretty much $70 across the board. I still think at 10 years old, is it a great deal? Eyes in the the beholder, depending on what your wallet looks like. But I do think now it's a little bit more accessible because of the higher price point. A lot of people are passing on it because of that, but it still moves quite well. So I think you see that in regards of just the market and the pricing catching up with the demand and really kind of finding that happy middle and that sweet spot. But you're right, there's other brands that are really trying to, that they're kind of struggling in their price point and trying to figure out whether they need to cut prices, and then nobody's trying to raise prices as much anymore. But a lot of brands are looking at it because there is a lot of competition. Like, this was definitely the year of competition that I think that we've seen more whiskey come on the market than anything else. And that kind of goes into the next prediction that was actually coming from Brian. And this was hitting on the potential G word here, right? The glut. And so his prediction said that there was a big increase in production about 6 to 7 years ago, talking about how the stills behind Maker's Mark that you really didn't see were pumping out a lot of liquid, in addition to a lot of other things as well. But there has been zero progress on opening up India and China. And really, now that we're starting to even see going into next year with the potential tariffs, that they're probably going to get okayed, but there's there's always that looming. So he said 2023 could be the first year of a true glut. So in regards to that, I think he might be hitting on something here. I'm going to give you a half point of credit on this one because we definitely have seen a year where people pulled back. I have been to Total Wine. I have been to Liquor Barn. I have been to Specs. I have been to Benny's. I've seen these places. There's more whiskey than I've ever seen in my life. The amount of choices that anybody has is asinine. And they're coming from brands left and right, and they're coming from a lot of brands that I've never even heard of and labels that I walk by and I'm going like, where the hell did this come from? So did we hit the first year of the glut?
Well, I'll take that half point, and I'll point to the news that came out, I think last week or maybe 10 days ago, about Brown-Forman stock and MGP. They're lowering projections or forecasts, and the stock price is going down. And I've heard rumblings at Jim Beam that they may have to cut labor. They might cut still time down because they've been producing so much and have maybe produced too much. So it may not have been a 2023 result, but I think we are seeing the signs. So I'll take that half point.
Yes, very true. And I think that's one of the good things of having the open market and the stock market is that those earnings have to come out and people get an idea of actually what's happening. And yes, those brands have taken a pretty big hit. So not to wish anything upon anybody else, but in regards of just people's jobs and stuff like that, I hope everything can recover. We are seeing when we talk to Ryan and I, we talk to distributors at least once a week, and as Don actually put in the chat, that most major brands are seeing around a 7 to 10% decrease this year. And they look at it and they say, this is just a market correction. This is kind of getting back into what we had seen a little bit pre-COVID. And it's going to have to go down. Like, we couldn't have been on that rocket ship forever. So we'll kind of see what the next year plays into this, because everybody was down this year. There's going to have to be some strategy rethinking of what does your product portfolio look like? What is the consumer buying? What is the consumer staying away from, and everything like that too.
Yeah, I think it's more of a correction than a glut. Because like I talked to you, had the 2021 and 2020 and 2021 were the pandemic years. People were consuming massive amounts of alcohol at home. And then 2022, I think they rode the wave of the on-premise. People are going back to restaurants and bars, going out to eat, getting cocktails again. So that kind of pushed them through to keep the numbers going. And then it just kind of hit a point where they're like, all right, we've bought enough. And I think it's just a correction of the pandemic years. And, like you said, we're, right on track for like 2018, 2019 numbers, which if you looked at 2019, 2018 to 2015, 2016, they were growing at, probably 5-6%, which is probably a natural, growth curve for, and actually a really good one. Most time these companies are thrilled to be at a 1 or 2% growth per year. And so I think, we just had those, easy streets for 3 years in the brown spirits category, and all spirits, or really. And it's just kind of an auto correction, and it's just human like psychology, and the animal spirits. When times are good, they think everything's going to stay the same, and when times are bad, they think the world's going to end. And it's it just plays itself out over time. Whereas people just need to play the long game. But it's definitely that boomer bust mentality that we have as humans and consumers.
All right. Well, quick timeout. We got to add in somebody who's coming to you live from the urinals here at Disney.
I heard we were talking about all of my correct predictions for 2023, so I wanted to jump in really quick and make sure that I got credit where credit was due.
Looks like you're in witness protection right now, Blake.
See, we'll adjust the lighting. Yeah. No, but really good topics. I hated to miss this one, but also apparently the kids have to get their Disney in, so always had to do my annual check-in from Orlando.
The dinner bell's ringing.
Dinner bell's ringing. Yeah. Did anybody have any correct predictions? Is my biggest question.
My prediction is you would show up today, so I win.
Okay. Did we not even get that far in the questions tonight? Is the real question.
We got one here coming up in a second that you're going to be a good part of. But the other one I kind of want to bring up real quick was the one that our buddy Airbird over here brought up, and he said, "Isn't the glut more about the 4 to 6-year-old bourbon? I don't think there's a glut of 8+ right now. I mean, you look at Four Roses, Single Barrel, and Russell's Reserve, like that sells pretty well. But when you think of 4 to 6-year bourbon, I mean, I think of pretty much a lot of the stuff that's in that mid tier, all that 5-year MGP that flooded the market. There's a lot of it.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, yeah, there doesn't seem to be a glut, like, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof or Elijah Craig Store Picks or Russell's or, yeah, you're totally right. And there's definitely whiskey in that younger range that's just sitting right now for sure. Whereas those pandemic years, everybody's willing to buy and try everything.
Though it might not necessarily be a horrible thing. It might open up a whole new route of new brands that pop up over the coming years that are able to buy Kentucky whiskey, right? I mean, for so long it was, it's another new source brand and it's from Indiana or Tennessee, right? And I think that might really invigorate some folks to take a shot and say, hey, I'm going to create a brand doing something, and we're just going to source from Kentucky because now we can actually get some whiskey. I'm going to start aging it myself or stuff like that. So, not great for the overall industry in the very micro short term, but in the long term, I think this will actually drive some innovation, be pretty good.
Yeah, kind of not a counterpoint on that, but I'll say I do think there is a lot more aged whiskey out there than we probably think. I think there's big companies and just even some of these, investment groups that are sitting on whiskey that's getting a lot older and starting to get past that 4 to 6-year-old age range. That I think we'll start to see on the market. But overall, I think that's a win for the customer, kind of to Jordan's point of if more and more brands are going to start putting their kind of what they do on aged Kentucky whiskey, like I think that's a win all around. So I think, it'll be a little bit surprising over the next couple of years of what pops up from NDPs, but at the end of the day, I think that's good for everyone.
Yep. And that kind of plays into our next prediction that Blake and I both had last year, was that there was going to be a screeching halt on the amount of barrel picks that were rolling out. We had seen so many mid-tier picks that had come out, and the market really got flooded. And I think Blake can really speak to this a lot because he's been somebody that has to be a retailer for a lot of this. So you see everything, even coming from places like, thankfully, Brian Mackey put in here, Rebel, Ezra, Yellowstone, Smooth Ambler. There's a lot of that stuff that's kind of hits, even at a cash strength, but it still kind of hits that sort of mid-tier point. There was just so many of them. There was tons of Nulu. There was tons of other things out there on the market. And so you see Starlight. I mean, we could just keep going. There was just so much that was flooding the shelves. And now we are looking at this stuff. I wouldn't say sitting, but there is a plethora of things going on. I mean, I've even heard that there are some other retailers that have basically put the kibosh on all 2024 picks until they get through a good percentage of what they have in store in 2023. And so it's not going to be for things like Four Roses small batch. It's not going to be for Willett or Elijah Craig Barrel Proof or Russell's. It's definitely going to be for those mid-tier picks. And we've even seen it in our own community inside of Bourbon Pursuit. I mean, we slowed down a lot. I think we made this prediction, or I made this prediction last year because we kind of saw this at the end of 2022. People just kind of slowed down. They just weren't buying. People weren't interested in it as much anymore. There was just so much that was out there. And one of the things we talked about last year was how in 2022, Ryan talked about it all the time. Years ago, we said, what were the unicorns? What everybody chasing after? Well, don't chase after unicorns. Chase after single barrel picks. Like those are the unicorns. But now there's a unicorn on every left corner at every single store. So it's no longer special considering what it once was. So we definitely saw those take a huge hit here in 2023.
Yeah, I'll jump in a little bit on that one where I think, and kind of the part of what I love about the bourbon community is, for better or worse, everybody's on to the next thing. They're always looking for what's new, exciting. I think Jordan, we've probably seen it with some of y'all's picks this year, where it's like ones where I'm like, hold on, what is this? And then it's like, oh, Dragon's Milk, people go crazy for. Or Fred had one from Jay Wright, and it's like people went crazy for it. So for better or worse, people are always looking for that new and exciting pick, but just to go do 6 picks from the same distillery and brand, unfortunately, can be tough at times. Which I hate it because it's not like it's bad whiskey or something's gotten worse about it. Nothing like that, but it's kind of like you got to always be working to what's new and up and coming and next, and that's what people want to try. Because at the end of the day, as much as I love New Riff bourbon, do I need 7 picks from them on my shelf? I don't know. Probably not. I may want to go buy something new after that. So.
Yeah, we definitely saw that with Knob Creek this year too. I think Knob Creek numbers were in a little bit different way. You saw them everywhere. I don't think there's anybody that couldn't get a Knob Creek pick. So that was one of the other brands we kind of saw slow down.
And it kind of ties hand in hand too. It's just not people being oversaturated, and I'm sure you have seen it. I'm sure people listening have seen it too. Better for worse, like single barrel sticker game was a thing, and it was a huge thing that drove a lot of the craziness, right? People, it was like the sticker was the thing to get. People wanted the bottle because they had the sticker. I feel like throughout 2023, it's really waned, and people just don't care about stickers anymore. They just don't. They don't care what the bottle's name. They don't care what the sticker is. They just care about the bourbon, and that's it. And they don't need their 10th Starlight because it has a fun name or a fun sticker. They just don't need 10 Starlights, so they're just not going to get it. Sticker be damned. So you started seeing a lot of clubs kind of decline on that too. And I think I don't know, call it collectability, whatever you want, right? You take out that aspect a little bit and some common sense comes in for some folks. And it's less about getting them all and more about, like Blake said, trying something that you probably wouldn't be able to get unless you were in one of these clubs. Then it becomes, okay, this is cool.
But that's a good thing, though. It's a good thing the sticker game kind of took a back seat.
I'm not complaining about that one bit. Trust me.
I was going to say, I don't think anybody on this roundtable is going to be real upset stickers have started to slow down.
Nope.
And there's people here on the chat I know personally have derided stickers. So there's actually a backlash against stickers. So I like the pendulum swinging that way. Go ahead, Matt.
Who's Matt?
Q on the north side has been
Got it. That's what I was like. Nobody here's named Matt.
No.
How much has Brian had to drink tonight? He's
Just
calling out people by the wrong name. Matt, go ahead and close.
I was waiting for Matt to say something on the chat about that, and he didn't. So I had to
he did. He did. There it is. We just put a big F stickers right there for it.
There it is.
But it has to be one of the with single barrels, we're kind of that formula, for success. And it's like, then this year was felt like the year kind of the finish where finishes were really widely accepted and, sought after and tried by folks. And I think I kind of see maybe a slight fatigue in that. And it's like, as a producer and like brands, you just gotta be like, what the hell do you do? Like, how do you satisfy consumer demand? And then you go out and you meet people in the market, and we're kind of in a box because we're, the 1% of whiskey, as Kenny always says. And most consumers just want something that's affordable, tastes good, and looks cool. And that's what they want. And, and I think there's going to be a trend going back to like what I thought bourbon, why I liked it was because it was accessible, affordable, and cool. And maybe there's a trend that's going to be the future coming back.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think we still, and I feel like a broken record, but we still just forget like this is the small percentage. It seems like every other week I meet somebody who you talk to them and they're really into bourbon, but then you look at their collection, it's like just a Sazerac portfolio, which is fine. But I think that same person, to Ryan's point, will be looking for the next thing pretty soon, but it's got to be affordable. It's got to be accessible, and, you want it to look cool. So I think that just that trend will continue on for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's save that one for the predictions. I think there's still a factor there that's missing, is that there has to be tension. There has to be a want or desire to get it. And if it's just available on the shelf, then you'll get it next time, right? So, but we'll play that into the next one. I want to keep this going with some other predictions. This one was also from Brian. Seems Brian is a theme tonight with different things, but this is the last one I'll put you on blast for here, Brian. He said that there's going to be a major move from 750 to 700 milliliter bottles, and people have to start looking for 750 milliliters online, maybe even secondary markets.
Did I really say major?
You did say major. You said there's going to be a major move, which
Damn.
really, it was really only Jack Daniels, I think, that we saw really kind of make a bigger shift into 700 mLs. I can't recall if it had to have been another big producer that might have done something at 700 mLs, but there definitely wasn't a huge shift in that too.
Yeah, I'll take a loss on this one. I know Woodford also went to a 1 liter on a lot, so it's kind of hand in hand with the 700. It's moving to the 700 in the 1 liters, but nobody else is. Maybe I'm omniscient and that's something for future years, but definitely not major if that's what I said.
Brian, in your defense, we did have somebody email us. I believe it's Proof and Wood does all 700 mLs, so they're tumbling dice,
nice.
all of that. So you got one more on the list.
I've got So it's still not a half check, maybe not even a quarter check, but trust me, guys, it's coming.
We'll give it to you.
I mean, to Brian's point, right? Brown-Forman really embraced it pretty quickly, right? So Brown-Forman and their brands embraced it, and it's not going to be as quick of an avalanche as Brian thought, but the moment Buffalo Trace is able to tap into the Asian market successfully, they will, with all those warehouses up on the hill, storing the thousands of barrels of bourbon in each one, they will quickly switch to 700 to streamline production lines and get it going really quick. So brands will start doing it. It's just not going to be quick, Brian, but give it another 2-3 years. And you know what? Remember when Jack Daniels switched over and everyone was really pissed, and Woodford and other Brown-Forman things, and now it's kind of like, all right, there's no pushback. No one cares.
Yep. Blake's got to head out. So Blake, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, buddy. We'll enjoy the rest of your Disney vacation.
Did he say that, or are you just kicking him off because of his audio quality?
Blake, are you really going to say this counts to keep the streak alive?
Oh,
I just want to hear you say it.
They always count. No matter if 45 seconds is the cutoff. If you're here for more than 45 seconds, that counts for the streak. So Kyle Ripken will be here in 4 weeks. Catch you guys later.
All right. See you.
Enjoyed it. Thanks, guys. See y'all.
I'm still convinced it was just like a AI bot. Kenny was typing to talk because we couldn't see Blake's face at all. It's just,
All right. So we'll keep this going. We got a few more here. This one actually comes from Eric, and I think he kind of got this one right. And he said that as soon as the American single malt is approved by the TTB, it will make Kentucky distilleries add one to their portfolio. So we definitely saw that happen in 2023. You had Claremont Steep. Wild Turkey, I don't think has come out with a single malt yet, but we are definitely seeing that single malt train pick up. Maybe not so much here in Kentucky, but probably in different parts of the country, you are going to start seeing that happen.
I think Claremont Steep coming out, right? We talked about this one before Eric came on the show. So Claremont Steep coming out was a huge win for consumers. That's from a brand that a lot of people, right? People know Jim Beam. It's priced well. It actually tastes really good, right? It won't be the most mind-blowing, complex single malt you ever had, but boy, is that a good American single malt. And people, because it came out from Jim Beam, they really pushed that category forward. You're going to start seeing more and more from the majors in that single malt space. This will continue to happen, but you saw a ton of huge uptick outside of the majors. A lot more smaller distilleries come out with the single malts, and if they already had one, they're really expanding their lines. Once this does get approval, we thought it would happen this year, but next year it'll continue to pick up pretty good.
I think maybe, it's cool that Beam came out. I think though they missed it by not tying it more to Beam. The most consumers don't know what Claremont even means or where it is. And so I think it just gets, and it's not because of the single malt, it gets pushed to the American whiskey category. And so I don't know. I still think single malt's going to be a tough sell. I think it'll be regional where it'll be popular. But I mean, rye whiskey still is, while it's gained in popularity, it's still way behind bourbon as a category. Bourbon outsells rye probably 7-1 right now, and so I'd probably say bourbon outsells American single malt 20-1. But I mean, it's definitely growing as a category. I just don't seeing it uh, being a big market, but I think there would be a market in definitely certain regions of the country.
I mean, really, anyone who's a Scotch drinker, though, right? Because I'll have a ton of friends who are Scotch drinkers. And they're like, oh, I don't like bourbon, don't like rye. I'm like, well, here, try this. They're like, what is it? I'm like, oh, it's an American whiskey. Just try it. It'll be a single malt, right? And I'll usually find one that's just a little bit smokier, a little bit malty, or something like that. Like, oh, this is really good. What? No, it's from this American whiskey distiller. Oh, really? It's American? Okay, cool. And like, that's their bridge to American whiskey. So it's a good bridge there.
Yeah.
And then it just feeds people into bourbon eventually. But it's doing its job more so than I'd say, to Ryan's point, like rye is trailing very far behind bourbon, right? I wouldn't surprise me one bit if American single malts just eclipse rye and slide right into that low, but second place behind bourbon.
Wow, I don't that'll be good to talk about in January.
Yeah.
I want to see if you stick to that, Jordan,
All
because
right.
I don't see malt surpassing.
He is a
rye.
Northeaster.
Well, that is true, but malt's just tough to catch on, except maybe locally. You know, there's some good aged malt that came out in the past year that got a lot of attention, but yeah, not so sure about the future. But good prediction. Eric's kind of batting
nailed it.
1,000, I think.
Yep. All right, let's keep going. We got a little bit of time left, and about 2 or 3 more here to go through. So the other one was from Ryan. He said that MGP will lose steam because Wilderness Trail, Bardstown Bourbon Company, and Green River all have barrels hitting 5 to 6 year, and the price range is going to be acceptable. And there's a growth of 6-year-old whiskey at craft brands. So I think that probably just plays into probably the mid-tier category getting oversaturated. I mean, it was one of those things that even this year, Smoke Wagon. I mean, remember Smoke Wagon? As soon as it hit the shelves, it was off the shelves, and now
I don't remember Smoke Wagon.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm just saying, this past year for Smoke Wagon, even very earlier in the year, I mean, it was flying off the shelves, and now it's kind of there, and it's kind of back into the realm of, you got to try it before you buy it, or everybody's had it and something else. And so I think that's kind of changed. And that's just one of those MGP brands. You've seen, I mean, I can walk around. There's a bunch of stuff of like Nulu. I mean, there's just a bunch of MGP out there too. Not to say that it's still great whiskey, but there's just a lot of it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, Rare Bird says MGP ain't losing steam, but their stock price sure is. And, the only saving grace for them has been Penelope this year. That's really, I think, the only, product that they're, that's actually doing well for them. I think all the Luxro brands have kind of struggled. If you look at control state data and whatnot, it's I just think, Indiana bourbon became acceptable. I think people just still prefer the KY. And if, a Kentucky product comes out, if you're doing them side by side, someone's going to pick Kentucky probably. Unfortunately, even though that, sometimes the other states are, can be better. It's just people have that mindset. They like the herd. They want what's safe.
Yep. And to Ryan's point, how many people do you know on a daily, and I'm sure you'll see them on your tours, maybe not, maybe you have more advanced tour guests coming in. How many people do you hear on a daily, weekly basis? Bourbon has to be made in Kentucky, right? Like that's still probably the majority of non-whiskey consumers' mindset out there, right? So when they go to a store to buy something, oh, you got any Kentucky bourbon? Yeah, that over there. Okay, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
So,
And what's been a fun exercise for us since we got our own place is sometimes I'll do an experiment with the group and I'll say, "Oh, y'all are a fun group," and I'll get a barrel and now it's going to blow the surprise, but I'll have to come up with something new. But I'll pull one of our really good Tennessee barrels out and I'll pour it out. I'm like, here's one of our good 6-year Kentucky bourbons I want y'all to try. And they try like, this is amazing. And they're like, and I go, actually, it's from Tennessee. And they're like, oh God, it just blows their mind that a Tennessee whiskey can taste that good.
Yeah. Well, and a point to the MGP real quick, Kenny, before you move to the next one, if you were to put 10 Wilderness Trails and 10 Green Rivers, not the OZ Tyler stuff, but get head to head against MGP, one of those two Kentuckys are going to win every time. So it's not just the KY in front of it, but particularly Wilderness Trail. They're just making better whiskey.
Oof. All right.
Yeah,
Fighting words right there.
Yeah. my opinion.
All right. So here's a big one that Fred had last year. Even though he wasn't on it, but he had said it in a chat to me. He said that he predicted there would be a 12-year age-dated Maker's Mark.
Well, I think he knew.
I think he had inside information. That's I'm calling bull on that. He had it already.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, Cellar Aged came out. It's been a little hit and miss considering from some of the reviewers and stuff like that, but it was another exciting release that people were really looking forward to.
Yeah,
we'll give him credit even if he had insider information. We'll give him credit.
We'll give you a point.
Well,
we'll give you 0.75 points.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, so Eric had another good prediction and said that cigar batch would have been the hot word for 2023. I think that's pretty true as well. He's on fire, isn't he?
I see more and more coming out with it, and it's amazing.
He's nailing. I don't know why he's not on more, Jordan.
That's why he's so quiet. He's very analytical, thinking of all the.
That's it. We wait till you see our 2024 predictions. We talked about the 2023 predictions a lot before Eric came on, and we just noticed like Ambarana, we just assumed in cigar batch was two things, right? One, that's a really unique finish for a lot of folks, and two, if they don't know what Ambarana is and just say cigar batch, like that intrigues a lot of people. They think whiskey, they think cigars. Cool, the two must go hand in hand together. Let's give it a shot, right? And I think it was the it thing. It was 100% the it thing. Remember when honey finished barrels came out? How hot was bourbon finished in a barrel that used to hold honey? Like super on fire for just that split second. Same thing with this. Will it continue forward at this pace? Probably not. But boy, was 2023 making it the new it girl.
Oh, for sure.
No doubt.
All right. And so our last one that we're going to get to was, of course, acquisitions. And myself, Ryan, and Blake, we all said Penelope. So checkbox, we got that one right. Blake had mentioned Southern Distilling out of North Carolina. I don't think that one came through. Eric had mentioned Barrel and Westward, which both didn't happen. So yet another year. And I was actually talking to Fred earlier, and I said, here we go. I think we're 4 or 5 years in a row now where Four Roses has still not been sold or whatever. But Brian had actually predicted, thinking that there was going to be more consolidation of big brands like Pernod Ricard having too many. It might have flipped somebody like Rabbit Hole to somebody else. So something else.
And I'm missing all over the place.
Well, Penelope felt like an easy one. I think everybody kind of saw the rise of what they were doing, and they were definitely captivating the minds and getting the mind share. And you saw, I couldn't think of anybody on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok that didn't have Penelope bottles in their background. So that was, you kind of saw the momentum happening for that one.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
But guys, that's going to be it. That was our predictions from 2023. I think we got a few of them right. We of course we get a few of them wrong every once in a while, but that is the fun part about it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we all have in store next month when we give our 2024 predictions.
I'm gonna have to think a little harder.
I don't want to wait a whole month. I want to do it now.
I'm gonna have to take the breaking approach here and actually think about my predictions. So don't get blasted on these.
We'll send you a consulting call fee. We got you, Brian.
Yeah, I'll have to actually spend more than 10 minutes brainstorming next time instead of being like, oh, Penelope acquired. Yeah.
Wait, we're 10 minutes before BCR?
Okay. Yeah, pretty much. All right, but that's going to do it for this one. I want to say thank you, everybody that was on the chat being a part of this. But Jordan, go ahead and give a quick sign off.
Yeah, Jordan from Breaking Bourbon. Thrilled to be here once again. Really happy you're pleased with that #1 whiskey of the year you're sipping on, Kenny. And see you guys in 2024.
Yes, and Brian.
All right, Brian with Sipping Corn. I look forward to a big 2024 with you guys. I have to say, my only disappointment tonight is I'm the only one with the Christmas sweater. It's my UK Christmas sweater that when we do the ugly sweater parties at U of L fans' houses, I wear this because they think it's ugly, and I'm still wearing my UK stuff. So, cheers, everybody.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you again, guys, for being on here. Thank you, everybody that's on the chat. We had a lot of good chatter going on. People were already dropping their 2024 predictions. I can't wait to see what people think next month. I just love being able to kind of do a look back in a year and see exactly what we got right, what we get wrong. It was a big year. There's a lot of things that did happen. American whiskey and bourbon, of course, made a lot of big moves, a lot of headway in regards of even putting more stuff on the market than probably people wanted to drink. So we'll have to see exactly what's going to happen in 24, how our brands and how our companies and how our consumers going to change going into it. And what do we see it's going to happen as well? And how are you going to continue to capture the attention of everybody that's out there too?
It's going to be really hard to do predictions because I feel like this year the consumers changed every 3 months. Like once a quarter, it was like they went on this, then they went on that. And it's crazy. But yeah, looking forward to it. And everyone listening, have a Merry Christmas. Enjoy time with your family. This is a special time of the year just to reflect back, hang with your family, look back on the year, look at all the things you're grateful for. It's my favorite time of the year just to hang with family and really just focus on all the good things in life. So I'm thankful for everyone and all you all. And Kenny, I'm sure you'll close us out. So
I'm thankful for you too, Ryan.
Man, you can't close out after that. I mean,
No, you got to end on that.
We had to end on it.
That's the end. We're done, guys.
well,
it is.
Toodles.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you next month.
Cheers.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay, and we're out. Pour myself one little more of these, and then we'll.
It's tasty.
Out of here. It is. It's good, man. You weren't joking.
How is that not hot? Is not a flamethrower?
Not really.
No.
It's got a lot of just. I mean, you kind of feel it in the throat, like it makes a little bit of a dryness to it, but it's not. Yeah. It doesn't make you feel like you need to cough. I mean, I haven't even really drank any water. That's all I've had.
Wow,
have you had it yet, Brian?
Telling right there. That's super telling.
Have you had a chance to try it yet, Brian?
No, I haven't even opened it. I got a bottle. I haven't opened it.
You'll like it when you do.
All right.
Thanks for the heads up on Instagram. We didn't realize they did that with their Elijah Craig brand.
Oh, you didn't see that yet?
No.
When I said it? Oh, Lord. Yeah, I
That's
saw
a nice
that. I was
little
like,
treat.
oh, man. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Huge congrats on that.
Well, huge congrats to them. They deserve it.
Well,
I'm just glad they're smart enough to pick up the free
right.
media. You know.
That's right. they all know how to do that well.
I was going to say, you need to start charging licensing to be able to use that logo of yours.
Yeah.
Nah,
no one's picked up my my reviews. I don't know. Of course, I haven't done one since last year, December. So there's that.
Oh yeah. What was it, Ryan? Remember when we did our bottled and bond showdown like years ago? I forget, who'd we choose?
It was early times, Bald and Bond.
It was early in times. Yeah, they reached out and they actually requested usage of our logo and everything like that, so they could put it in all their media and stuff. So,
Well, good for them.
Yeah. See, so
We didn't charge them
we didn't
because we couldn't, or we could have, but then
No,
they're
we
like,
couldn't have.
we're not going to post it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we don't need it that bad.
Yeah, I mean, like, if we'll just keep sending me, like, I guess. Actually, I haven't had early times in. Had it been at least a year now. It's been a while since.
Ever since I got acquired, I haven't had any.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah, but it was so good when Brown Foreman first put it out, but I haven't tried it.
Well, you got a rule and you stick by it.
That's right.
I respect that.
So, did you guys see that Pursuit Spirits Bourbon beat Wilderness Trail by one vote, and Blanton's got a single vote? And
I'm not surprised.
I'm waiting for Pursuit.
Not that I'm surprised we beat out
advocate
Wilderness
for-
Trail, but I'm not surprised Blanton's was the one.
Well, yeah, I'm not surprised at that, but I'm waiting for somebody from Pursuit Spirits to ask for licensing for my, IP to be able to tout the huge win there.
We need free media press.
Okay. All right, I'll do that too.
We have no leverage. You're our attorney.
Now, totally blind. Other than I told them that it was going to be in order of proof. So Blanton's was first, you were second.
Okay.
The Wilderness was 115, so they were third.
Was that a single barrel or just their cash strength release or something?
Single barrel.
Okay.
6-year single barrel.
Gotcha.
take
Hey,
it.
we'll take it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I could have sworn
Yeah.
I put it on our story or something, so I know I reposted it.
You guys did. I'm just giving you shit.
If I could figure out a better way to market that, then I should. I really wish I had like 20 bottles of Blanton's just like sitting in a closet somewhere, because we had one of our ambassadors kind of did the same exact thing. He had a tasting. They did a blind tasting and had people. And so, of course, United won 33-3 in regards of over top of
down.
Blanton's.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Pepsi challenge all over again.
I know. And then to my dismay, he still didn't sell a bottle of it. And I was like, that should have been 33 sales right there. I was like, how does that happen?
That just shows you consumers don't care how.
No.
You know, I was listening to a talk about the psychology of selling things, and he's like, you could have the best product ever that could do the best thing for a consumer, but if someone else in the tribe doesn't like it, they're not going to buy it. And that's so true about every product. It's like people have to have like this, that they're scared of being like, they want to be accepted, and that's, you know, with their decision making. And it's so true in whiskey. It's like they feel like, I just can't be. That's where it's just tough.
Yeah. No alarms.
Yeah,
Supposed to
that's
shut off
you know what that is.
VCR.
No. You know what that alarm is? Who
No.
has kids?
I got old ones. I'm old.
That's for me to go move that goddamn elf when I get home.
10-15.
That's why I refuse to do those, because I'll forget it every night.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I've forgotten it. I've forgotten it before, and so we had to just you had to just BS your way out of it. So
Yeah.
I
Just
think
lie to your kids.
yeah, I think we're
Yeah, I
getting
love it.
closer. I think we're getting closer.
Santa was
where-
busy last night.
Yeah, it's like
He was with
He
Mrs.
likes that
Claus all
stuff.
night.
You only got a year or two left of that, Kenny. You should enjoy it.
we're hoping this is the last. It's like we're hoping somebody at school just tells her and ruins Christmas. Like
I don't.
we're
want
getting to
I
that
wanna
point
keep
now.
it going. I like it. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but
fun.
I mean, when did you find out? Like she's hitting 10. Like it's getting
I
pretty
don't
close.
think I was
I
probably
was,
like
I think I was 10.
What
maybe
grade is that?
Fourth.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
You're. It's
You're
either
close.
this year or next for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Mine are
Yeah,
in second, and I got these asshole second graders trying to debunk the myth, and I'm like, freaking dicks. Like, if you don't, just keep it to yourself.
Oh man.
Well, I guess one of the things that me and my wife did come to an agreement on was, like right now you see all the fun stuff that people do with Elf on the Shelf. They'll have it like holding a knife or doing something like crazy and psychotic, and I'm like, well, we can't do it right now, but once she knows, then we can just do dumb stuff with it, because it's just now all we do is at the end of the night we waste our time just like looking around, looking up, and going, sure, the curtain rod looks like a good place tonight.
Yeah,
That's
there can
true.
be some fun in that.
Man, I hadn't had Chattanooga in a while. It's pretty damn good.
You know what? I was crushing a bottle of that like 2 weeks ago. I was going back to the 111, and I think actually it was not that. It was our single barrel, our weeded single barrel that we selected from them.
Yeah, this is just the 111. Man, it's really good. It's a malt base, but not a single malt.
Yeah.
I did have a Starlight single malt that I thought was amazing.
Interesting.
Kenny
Yeah.
on a penny.
That Blake and Brian picked for Sealbox, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, I really like this. I'm not embarrassed to say it. Normally, single malts, I'm like, it tastes malty and kind of like a floor after a night of drinking beer. But this is was pretty good.
We drank a lot of single malts this year. There's some great single malt distilleries out there.
Yeah,
There's a lot of not good ones, but there's a lot of good ones too.
I think we only probably tasted, what do you think, Ryan? 6? Like probably not more than that.
Oh wow.
yeah, and probably half of them were made by MGP.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to say. I was
Well,
like,
there's a best of single malt list on breakingbourbon.com if you guys need a best of
Ooh.
single malt.
I
Shameless
need to
plug.
look at that.
Shameless plug.
Who won that?
You're
There's
pivoting
no
now.
winners. There's just 5. We just do 5 across the board.
okay.
They're all winners.
They're all winners. If you're on that list, you're a top 5.
You're being talked about. You won.
That's
Yep.
it. So, well, fellas, I unfortunately need to hop off early, but
All right. Well,
Yeah.
let me go
talk to
ahead
you
and
beforehand. Have a great Christmas.
hang
Hit the
tight.
button and
Hey,
I'll hit
Merry
the,
Christmas,
Yep.
Jordan. Great to see you as always.
Merry
Yeah.
Christmas,
Well,
dude.
And thank you for that gift. That was amazing.
No, thank you guys for being awesome.
That was
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Hang
name
tight.
and everything. Yeah,
Hang
I know.
tight.
We're
Okay.
waiting. We're
Yeah.
waiting.
All right.
waiting.
We'll end the
We're
stream.
waiting.
Thank everybody in the chat. Again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we will see you all January 8th for the next Bourbon Community Roundtable. But until then, cheers, everybody, and you'll hear this episode nice and cleaned and cut up on Thursday.
Cheers.